They are heartless, godless barbarians. They murder and kill blindly. They scar the lands of England, lands they will never defend, never love. The time has come to speak to them in a language they will understand. Hello, and welcome to Visions of the Past. My name is Andrew, and I am the host of this Assassin's Creed lore podcast. This is episode 22, and today we're going to talk about where this quote came from and what it means after last week's announcement of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The first thing we have to talk about before we even get into the trailer or the art by Boss Logic is what exactly is Valhalla. In Norse mythology, Valhalla is a hall within Asgard where those who die in battle are sent. But only half of the dead go to Valhalla with Odin, while the other half of those who die in battle are called by Freya, Odin's wife. The dead in Valhalla are led there by the Valkyries. While there, the honored dead join others who have died in combat, along with various legendary Germanic heroes and kings. All are known as the Idunshar, and prepare to aid Odin during the events of Ragnarok. But what could this mean within the lore of the series? Could it be an external construct for our protagonist to hope to go upon his death? I feel it'll be more than that. We've already seen within the lore that places like Atlantis, Elysium, the Greek underworld, and Eden are all Isu places. That it would make complete sense for places like Asgard, Nidavellir, Jotunheim, and the other 9 worlds to also exist as Isu cities. And if they were to do this, it would make sense for Valhalla to be of one of Odin's great halls within the city of Asgard. In the upcoming release of Valhalla, the main character is Eivor, and there is also a very good chance that Valhalla will be the name that he gives his settlement. Throughout the series, we have been told that there was an ancient race of beings that created humans and other artifacts that do crazy things. These beings would go on to become worshipped by ancient civilizations such as the Greeks, Romans, Egyptians, and Etruscans, to name a few. To me, this says that every ancient civilization's pantheon and myths have some form of basis in the Isu, even if we don't know what that is yet. Odin, Thor, Loki, and other Norse beings are most likely going to end up being Isu, like Juno, Minerva, and Aletheia. But the question is, will they be others that we've already met, or more likely the others that Aletheia talked about that wanted to enable humanity? Only time will tell about which they end up being. When you start to look at their myths a little bit more, not only do you see animals that could turn out to be mythic beast bosses, like the Minotaur and Cyclops, you might even find the world tree Yggdrasil that would take you to these Isu locations. But what is more important to me is what their pieces of Eden are and what they could do. Anyone that has watched a Marvel movie in the last decade will know about Thor's hammer Mjolnir and Heimdall's sword Hofund. But there are more, like Odin's spear Gungnir, the unnamed sword of Freyr, that all could play into the lore in some form or another, much like the sword of Damocles being the sword wielded by Deimos during Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And that brings us to the axe that was being held by Eivor in Boss Logic's art. There are 2 mythological axes that this weapon could be. Could either be the axe of Pirun or Forseti's axe. If that axe is either, it could be a lore reason to explain superhuman powers like that we had with Cassandra in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. This is of course assuming that we get supernatural powers like there was within Odyssey, because the developers have promised more than once to return combat to a more grounded approach. After watching the premiere trailer and following information from multiple sites like Eurogamer and Jorah Raptor, I have a feeling that the superhuman powers will be pulled back a bit, and the combat that was talked about dual wielding any kind of weapon, including 2 shields if you wanted to, which would mean that if the superhuman abilities do return, it would be from something that would be permanent to the character. This would mean either Eivor's hidden blade or an article of clothing that you wouldn't be able to remove, but still be able to customize. What I did notice in Boss Logic's art, and both the male and female figurines of Eivor, was that there was a rather large belt that was shown. This belt could be either Megnord, which was Thor's power belt, Or it could be the girdle of Brunhild, which, when was stolen from her, she would lose her strength. Or it could be the girdle of Brunhild, who was a Valkyrie in Norse myths. When she lost her girdle, she would also lose her strength. Though there are other items within Norse mythology that could be used if they did so choose. But this assumes that we're going to get something prevalent in the gameplay like it was in Odyssey. Hopefully, we'll find out more within the gameplay reveal on May 7th. Before we break down the exact time period and location that was confirmed by lead writer Darby McDevitt in the developer commentary trailer, I want to talk about the Viking Age that is already within the lore of Assassin's Creed. What I am referring to is the search for a piece of Eden that was called the devotion prong of the Trident of Eden. What we know about this piece of Eden is that it was held by Harald Bluetooth Gormson, the King of Norway, in 965. He would hold it for almost 20 years before it would pass to Strimbjorn the Strong, then Thorvald Halfdansson, before ending in Ottsson Jordson's hands in 984. I don't want to get into much detail about these characters, though I did want to mention that Thorvald had a version of Eagle Vision that he called Odin's Sight and was also a proto-assassin. While we have been in the Scandinavian area before Assassin's Creed Valhalla, the new game has been stated to start in Norway, where it is assumed that Eivor will meet with a member of the Hidden Ones, receive a Hidden Blade, and then move to England where most of the game takes place. While we have already been in England with Assassin's Creed Syndicate, we have not been to the area anywhere near this time period, as Darby McDevitt confirmed in the developer commentary that the game starts in 873. Over 100 years before the events of Assassin's Creed Last Descendants, Fate of the Gods, and almost 100 years after the raid on Linden's farm that Arzo Berg mentioned in Assassin's Creed Rogue. While this could mean that we see hints or Easter eggs to these events, I think it was chosen specifically to distance itself from these locations, while still fitting in well within the Viking Age. I don't want to speculate on the story too much, but there are a few things in history that happened in or around 873 that I think could play well within Assassin's Creed. This is the year that saw the great Danish army led by Halfdan Ragnar's who was said to be the son of the legendary Viking Ragnar Lodbrok, and Guthrum, the king of the Danish Vikings within the Danelaw, that attacked the kingdom of Mercia to capture the royal centre at Repton in what is now Derbyshire. It is also one of the recorded years for the death of Halfdan's half-brother Ivar the Boneless, possibly at the Battle of Repton. The Great Danish Army was known as the Great Heathen Army by the Anglo-Saxon Kingdom of Wessex, who was led at the time by Alfred the Great, who we do see in the reveal trailer. The war between the two armies could come to a head at the Battle of Edington in May of 878, resulting in the Treaty of Wedmore later, within 878. While it is said that most of the game is set in England, we don't know exactly when Eivor will get there, as it was said we would find him in Norway at the beginning of the story. Norway at this time is just as interesting of a place historically. In 872, the battle at Hafrsvord would see Harald Fairhair become the first king of Norway. While Harald would rule for the next 60 years, it seems that he was constantly moving, even leading a fleet himself to Scotland in 875, chasing down those who opposed his rise to power. What any of this could mean for Eivor is anyone's guess without playing Valhalla, but with this creative team and this section of history, I'm excited to see the story that they have crafted. There are two other things that I want to touch on that came out of the connection to already established lore. The first being the Hidden Blade. While it's nice to see the weapon return, it appears to be based heavily on the design of Darius' Hidden Blade. And I mean this more than it being mounted on the top of the arm. It appears to be thicker at the base like Darius's was, and the slide mechanism looks to work pretty close to the same way. It is said that Eivor would meet the Hidden Ones early on in his adventure while in Norway, and given the weapon, but why? Could Eivor receive the design from someone because of his connections to the Raven? Maybe someone like Cassandra? Yes, that last one is a stretch, but it's something that I still think needs mentioned after knowing Cassandra walked to all ends of the earth and surviving for more than 2,000 years. The last thing that I want to talk about is that we don't see who the Hidden Ones are or who are in the Order of Ancients. While the trailer has a voiceover by Alfred the Great, It seems to me that he is less of a member of the Order and more of a puppet for the man who was beside him, and shown again later on the battlefield. While he never speaks, and he does look happy to see Alfred making the choice to go to the war with Eivor, making me think that he's the one pulling the strings. I can't begin to describe how excited I am for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Even before we got the boss logic stream and the premiere trailer, I knew that it was going to be directed by the director of two of my favorite Assassin's Creed games, Black Flag and Origins, Ashraf Ismail. And then, after hearing that Darby McDevitt came back to the series after being lead writer on Revelations and Black Flag, and helping a bit with Origins, I couldn't help but get super excited. The biggest thing that gets me into any game is story, and knowing that the team that put together some of the best stories in Assassin's Creed will bring me to this game day one. Right now, we don't know the exact details of what gameplay will look like, but we do know that it will expand on Odyssey in terms of choices, customization, and combat. Those are the things that made me keep playing Odyssey after 100 hours and losing track of the story. And now, knowing that the creators who crafted two of the best stories in the series are the ones working on this game's story, there is little that can be done to let me down. I'll play a lot of types of games if the story is there, and I have faith that Assassin's Creed Valhalla will not only fit within the lore, but also have a great story. Thank you for joining me today. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for new episodes. If you love the Visions of the Past podcast, I'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give me a review on iTunes. If you have any questions about Assassin's Creed or topics you would like me to cover, please feel free to hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at visions_AC, and you will find links to those in the episode's show notes. Until next time, my assassin friends, make sure to follow the Creed, and to those Templars listening, may the Father of Understanding guide you.